Well, let's talk about the current playoffs. I guess the biggest meteor this year was the Nets. I've argued they don't have enough defense. I don't know who's defending for them. They're odd. They're weird. Their games don't really mesh. Do you think the Nets have enough to win the NBA title?
Yeah, like when they got everybody, I was arguing on the show with my guys, and from day one, I said, you know what, like this team can definitely win it. And I don't think defending is going to be the problem. Like all those LeBron teams, when he went to the finals, they were never good defensively in the regular season. Like they were like 30th, 29th. Then the season came and it was like, the playoffs came and it's like, okay, like on defense, what do you need? Effort. And that goes in any sport, right? We just need guys to try. And when the playoffs come, guys know that, hey, we got to put in the effort because if we don't, we're going to get packed. We're going to go packing in the first round. So they might not have like the best defenders, but like Jeff Green can guard guys. DeAndre Jordan's a big body that's going to guard some guys. Joe Harris is a plus defender. Durant can guard guys. Really, it's just like Kyrie can't. And, Blake Griffin obviously is older. James Harden, if he's, doing some post defense, it's okay. He's going to swipe at guys. But even if they're giving up 120, like they're going to score 125. I think their problem is really if they're running into a team like Philly that has a guy like Embiid, and he stays healthy. And it's like, okay, who's going to guard him because they have some stars around him. But like you look at teams like New York's not going to beat them. Boston, Charlotte, Atlanta, Milwaukee like has a chance. But to be honest, I love Jrue Holiday, and if they go anywhere, he's going to need to be incredible. I can't trust Giannis. Right, like unless he gets like at least like a league average jump shot, I don't think that they're a threat to really do anything in the playoffs. It's like build a wall like the Raptors did in every other team. It's like take some shots, and he's not going to hit them. So like the Nets should get to the finals, depending on who they play. They can win it, but I'm not like defending is not really what's worrying me. It's just at this point, it's like is Durant going to like last until the end of the season? Because I think he's the one that's actually really hurt after that Achilles injury.
Yeah, he could be. I thought the two teams, I agree. Philly, I think they have real problems if they face Philly. And I just don't know who's going to guard Giannis, though. I know he can't shoot. I know he has massive limitations, but who's going to guard him on that team? I think he's
put the on him too, right?
Yeah, but I think he's going to get to the rim whenever he wants. The Raptors were a good defensive team that year. I think it's easy to say let's put effort, but there's also plus defenders, and there's like I think that they're going to have issues.
Would Milwaukee if they played each other?
I think Philly's gonna have I think Philly. I can't. This is the one year I can't pick because all three teams I can make a point. I love to pick the Nets, but I don't think they match up terribly against Philly. And if I had to pick right now, I think I would pick Philly because they have the 1 seed and they're not gonna have to. They're gonna face a depleted either Milwaukee or a depleted Nets because they're gonna beat the hell out of each other. And I think that 1 seed was a lot bigger, but I don't know who's going to win. Who's the favorite in the East? Is it the Nets?
Yeah, like the betting favorite's the Nets, right? If I had to rank the teams, I'd probably say the Nets, the 76ers, and then the Bucks. And then to be honest, fourth is probably the Heat. Like they were slapping the 76ers when I saw that earlier. I don't know how much that game really matters, but like Miami's has to be mentioned too. Like even last year, I remember going into the playoffs, nobody expected them to go to the finals. And I don't want to lie to you and say I did, but I thought that they could get to the East final. Like I thought that was legit for them. Especially like when I saw the way the Raptors playing at the end of the year. And the same with Boston, right? Like Boston hasn't been the same this year, but I looked at it, I was like, I can't trust Milwaukee. The 76ers look terrible down the stretch. And Miami just has so many guys. That's the thing, right? Like when Jimmy Butler goes to a team, it's the same thing like you said about Chris Paul, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's that personality. It's like, okay, I'm here, shut up and play. And guys just kind of fall in line. And we saw that last year. And we're seeing that now that Miami's getting healthy. Like Miami, to be honest, like could even beat Philly if they were to play each other in the second round. I don't know if Miami could beat Brooklyn. Like I know that they did earlier in the regular season. There's been some lucky shots, but if I'm actually betting money, I would have to bet Brooklyn gets out of it, and then my second pick is probably Philly.
Yeah, I think I'd put Philly first. That's me. Miami. Jimmy Butler deserves the same respect because he has turned that team around. And you mentioned the team Boston. Boston has turned into the Green Bay Packers. Far too conservative. They don't take risks. They don't take. Yeah. I mean, well, ironically, they got one, I think, the same year. I think the Celtics and Packers won the same year, didn't they, in 2008?
I think the Packers won in 2010.
10.
Packers
yeah.
At least 10, yeah. But, yeah, close. Yeah.
But they're kind of similar where they just don't take chances. They're so – they should have added it. They have a good team. They just didn't add. So what about the West? What do you think in the West? Like, do you think the Lakers I don't trust Utah. I don't think Utah's a great – I don't know who to pick out of the West either.
I don't trust Utah. A few weeks ago, and now things have changed a little bit. Like Phoenix has crept up, but I made like this bold prediction. I was like, I think Phoenix can get to the finals. Last year, I was just going to say in the East, last year I ended up picking Philly to beat the Clippers in the final. That was like my preseason pick. And Philly really let me down, and so did the Clippers. And I went on a rant about them last year that I kind of see them. I saw them unraveling last year going into the bubble. Like, just looked like they didn't like each other. This year, we're going to talk about the West. Like, I like the Clippers. Do I trust them more than last year? I don't trust the Lakers, and the same as the Nets thing. It's just health, right? Like if the Lakers are healthy, like can they go to the finals and win it? Sure, but like LeBron, you know something's wrong there. Like the fact that he's missing this many games and he never does, he would want to be out there. And then Davis, right? Like I think that when he had that Achilles injury, we saw with Durant 2 years ago now. Like those injuries, like you got to shut guys down, like for the off season, right? Because you come back too early. It's a calf, it's an Achilles, and then there goes 12 months. And I think that if it wasn't so pressing, if this was like happening in the summer earlier in the season, he would miss like 3/4 of the year. But they're trying to like force him back to be like, okay, LeBron's getting older, you got to come back. But I don't like the Lakers just for that reason. I don't know how early they lose. Like Phoenix is a bad matchup. Phoenix is a bad matchup for the Lakers. Is a bad matchup for Phoenix because they just don't have the size to guard them.
Yeah.
If Phoenix goes against anybody else, to be honest, like Phoenix and the Clippers, right now they're slated to go like 2-3, so like they play each other. But those are my two favorite teams that come out of the West. That's my pick for the West Final. Dallas is another team, but I don't even with Porzingis, like I feel like they're better when he's not playing.
That's the Kyrie Irving effect. The teams get better when he leaves.
And even like I know the Raptors without Kyle were the same kind of thing, right? Like when Kyle was out, they were a better team. In the playoffs, obviously you need him. But like Porzingis, like statistically he's a good player, but I just not passing the eye test. And since he tore the knee, like I thought he was going to come back and be the same, but he's just not. He's like 7'3" and he just doesn't move the same.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And at that size, when you have those lower like those leg injuries, it's a big deal. It's a really big deal.
Yeah, and a lot of guys don't come back from them. That's why, like, when he went down, I was like, oh, whatever, he'll be back. And then, a few of my buddies were like, but 7-footers don't usually tear their ACL, right? Usually it's like back problems and stuff like that. But when he hasn't been the same. And then Jokic, of course, like Jokic might be my favorite player in the league. So like I love Denver.
He's got my body. He's got my body type, so I love Jokic.
Yeah, you wish he had your body type.
Like I'm just shorter.
Yeah, sure. But like if Jamal stayed healthy, like Jamal's probably the best player in the bubble last year, right? Like he was incredible until he ran into the Lakers, and the Lakers, beat them up literally. Yeah. So like if he was still there, I don't know. Like Denver can still go to the West Final. I don't think that they have the depth with all these injuries. So I probably have to rank the teams like Phoenix, Clippers, Lakers, Denver. Like that's my top four in the West.
Okay, so who's your final? Who's your champion?
As much as I wanted to pick Phoenix to win it, I'd probably have to go with the Clippers. And what I was saying with my guys too is just if Paul George can even be average, like his average self in the playoffs, and not just be what we knew Kyle and DeMar in the playoffs and just be a shell of himself. Like I think that the Clippers kind of almost like cakewalk to the finals and to probably slap whoever they play, unless it's Brooklyn, right? Like Brooklyn will be a real series because they can score with them. But the Clippers, last time I checked, were number one in 3-point shooting, number one in free throw shooting. They can defend. Like Serge has been out for a while. Like once they get him, I think that it's a wrap. But it's like every other team, right? Like with the COVID, you're playing so many games. There's so many injuries. Hockey's the same thing. All these sports, it's just their body's not meant to play this much in this condensed of a season. And there's guys are dropping like flies.
So many variables.
Yeah, very much.
But I would take the Clippers to beat Brooklyn in the finals.
I wanted to take the Clippers. I think we're starting to overlook how good San Antonio was and how good the Raptors were. Where Kawhi didn't have to set the culture. He could be quiet. There were foundations there. There was no foundation in LA, and I think that's what hurt them. That's why. Yeah, I just don't. I think we're overestimating that. He walked into the Raptors, and he was just like everything was there. They had a foundation. They had a culture.
The table was set.
It was set in San Antonio. Yeah. It was set. It wasn't set in the Clippers. He had to set it, and that's not his game.
Right? Like you look at Lou Williams because Lou was here for a while, right? And that's the thing. Like you can put talent together, but when you have guys, like the thing about the Raptors their whole time from when Casey was here is you knew that those guys loved each other, and like they weren't scared to pass to each other. if there was a blown rotation, guys are going to step up and have each other's back. And with the Clippers, you knew like that wasn't there, right? Like Carroll seems like a selfish guy. Lou Williams seems like a selfish guy. Like when he got traded to Atlanta, he's like, I thought about retiring. It's like a grown man, like in the league crying, saying that I wanted to get traded. Like go back to the strip joint in Atlanta or Orlando, wherever you are, and like call it a day, right? Like I don't want to hear that like someone did you wrong because they're paying you $8 million a year for 4 years. Like shut up and play ball, right? Like, and I think that this year they got rid of most of those problem guys, right? Paul George now, like I said, I don't think he's a problem guy. The game comes easy to him, right? And like he can shoot the ball and all that, he can defend. It's just I know that he doesn't have that next level, like that playoff intensity that we see from some guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not big on the whole, they don't have playoff experience, this and that. But with, some guys, like when they really don't have it, it's a problem. And the last time, like the only time I remember him actually being good in the playoffs was, back in the day with Indiana when they were going against LeBron, when he had like Roy Hibbert and those guys, right? He had a team around him. He didn't have to do too much. But to answer the question, like I just think that the Clippers, they're looking more like the Raptors did in terms of like culture now. There's a new coach. Like I like Doc Rivers. I think he's a bit overrated, but I just think that he kind of lost the room. He was there for a long time, and also due to bad character guys. And now Lou came in, and it's like he won a ring, albeit with LeBron, but like he has a championship. He's been a player in the league, and I think that guys kind of like respect each other now more. And it's like, okay, we're running out of time. Like Kawhi is a free agent at the end of the year. It's probably time, right? But it's like, okay, like shut up or play ball now. And I think that this is their time to win.
If